Good morning, everyone. As Antonio has mentioned, we have the pleasure to have with us Luis Comas today. Luis is the CEO for Amrest Group, one of our most important away-from-home customers, not only in Spain, but in many countries in Europe. We know Luis for long ago, since Luis have been in the away-from-home business for many years, but maybe you can explain that much better than me. Welcome, Luis. Thank you so much for being with us today. Could you please tell us a little bit more about you for those of us who don't know you so much?
Sure, my pleasure. Thank you very much, Alicia. Thank you very much, Coca-Cola, for this invitation. I've been in business for very long, probably almost close to 35 years in the restaurant industry, and I've been blessed to start my career with some of the most well-known brands worldwide. I started my career with Burger King. I spent almost 12 years there, and that was the first time I met Coca-Cola. And those days, yeah. A fantastic occasion. Held in different positions from operations, training, QA, you name it. And then I moved to another group. I became the Southern Operations Director for Jam Restaurants, overseeing Pizza Hut and KFC in territories from starting Turkey to Cyprus, Greece, Malta, Spain, Portugal. And after a while, I became the General Manager for Jam Restaurants in Iberia. Another great experience. I moved on and I moved to Casual Brands Group. It's a brand that a company that I really had a special memory for them. That was the occasion where we relaunched Taco Bell in Europe. And again, another great contact with the Coca-Cola in those days. I kept moving, and so my wife and I decided, hey, why don't we try the expat life? And so we did. We moved to live in the Gulf. We joined the Al Shaya company, and over there I was overseeing in 7 years. I had the pleasure to oversee and lead 10 different brands.
Wow.
Very well-known brands, some of them, like Shake Shack, IHOP, and some other great launches of brands that are still not even today not known in Europe, Raising Cane's and some others, but great experience. Overseeing the entire Gulf, Lebanon, Turkey, Russia, and the UK. That was a great experience. And after a while, COVID days, because different family reasons, we decided to come back to Spain and relocate ourselves again back to Spain. And we just landed here in the middle of COVID, joining Amrest.
Wow.
Starting my first days with Amrest at La Tagliatella, an Italian casual dining concept. And very quickly, I was offered to lead the entire company. And I said, no, there is no questions, for sure, I will. And it's kind of a coincidence that most of the brands where I was working and growing myself are the brands that Amrest are managing today. So it was, I think, a perfect fit and combination. So no-brainer for me. And that's almost now 5 years in the role. And so far, extremely happy.
Wow, that's an amazing experience. So thank you again for being here with us. So as you said, Amrest operates iconic global brands like KFC, Starbucks, Pizza Hut, or Burger King. And you own brand like Sushi Shop or La Tagliatella, which is a very successful brand in Spain, by the way. So how would you describe the company's DNA?
I think Amrest is a kind of a very simple but complex business model company. We operate franchise restaurants, operate equity restaurants. We are master franchisors in over 22 countries with equity operations and franchise operations. But it's easy. I use myself a phrase that I think can exemplify what is Amrest. Many brands, many countries, but one company. And this is absolutely true. The way all the Amrestees, all the people who work in Amrest operate, have the same culture, the same vision, and therefore that makes a much easier operation. Amrest is a operator by nature. We are very proud how well we execute the brands, how we do fulfill customer promises, but also a steady growth company. We have been growing any single year, even in the COVID days, and that was a fantastic achievement for us. So many opportunities for people working with Amrest, many opportunities for the brands who join Amrest portfolio, and so it's a profitable growing company.
Wow, Amrestees. I like that one.
That's the one.
Okay. So you have a huge, diverse portfolio of brands, as you said, across Europe. How does it play? Would you say this is a strength, or is it a liability, having so many different brands?
Sure. I think it's a very, very big strength. And the fact that we have those brands from casual dining concepts to fast casual to QSR to coffee shops, spread across the entire Europe territory, plus some operations that we also run in China, give us, first of all, it's like a casino carpet, where you are not placing all your chips
Yeah.
into one place, but opposite to that, we have the fortune to be able to fight and defend and attack the different momentums of economy, crisis, trends. Most of the business, more than half of the business, is a QSR-based company. And that's also very important because at the end, when people are trading down on their consumption habits, at the very end, one of the latest recipients is QSR or the delivery business. And that's where we are also very, very strong, very big competitors. Plus, very well renowned brands that are very, very solid. That's a very important topic. It's not only the size, but the quality of the size.
Yeah.
So it's the quality of the brands we operate.
Sure. So, what would you say are AmRest's main strategic priorities today, both in Europe and globally, even in China, as you said?
Wow, strategies. That would be my investors' call agenda. What are the points here? Very easy. I think some of them are financial, and some others are related to the consumer. I think one of the key ones for all of us is to keep growing our consumer base. Like-for-like positive transaction growth is still a must, which hasn't been solid for the last 5 years. We have seen so many deterioration of traffic, and that's one of the things. Margin improvement year on year is another key priority. It was not that far away. We suffer inflation crisis and some other adventures, let's say, storms. You may not remember, but it was only just around the corner. We had this chips crisis. Yeah. And there were no chips available, so there were no people able to produce and build fryers. Yep. That was kind of a weird situation, or a big ship blockading the Suez Canal, and so goods not able to arrive to Europe on time, or the Ukraine war and invasion with this wheat prices going to the sky, or the energy crisis affecting Germany, and from the gas crisis affecting the entire electricity production across Europe. So margin is another one. I will list also as a very, very critical for us is margin is the CapEx management. How much it costs us to invest. AmRest is opening roughly 100 plus new restaurants every year. Plus on top of that, we are also renewing over 200 plus sites. Wow. So we are really investing into more than 300 jobs every year. It's kind of a construction company. Yep. If you think about it. But just to give you a number, a data, the cost to build and operate one single restaurant in some occasions across Europe has gone almost double because the steel price, because labor works, taxes, whatever. So as an average, we have been facing and unfortunately experiencing a 40-45% of inflation in our cost. So let's say I've got 100 beans to open 100 restaurants. Today, that 100 beans doesn't match to open these 100 restaurants. Today, I need 140% more of beans to open the same unit I was opening just before COVID, which is only 5 years ago. So that's also make us to be smarter, wiser, and more decisive how to invest and when and where. And that's our reality. That's an investment. Yeah. And the final one, turnover, margin improvement, CapEx management, is to generate a better free cash flow volumes. And this is the proper mix of all the top lines I just mentioned.
Great. Thank you. Very interesting. So if we move on to the restaurant industry, which I'm really looking forward to hear you about. How do you see the restaurant industry evolving within the next 3 to 5 years?
I think there is going to be a consolidation of organized chains. If I do step down for a minute and look at the US mirror or the UK mirror, we can see that new generations are starting to try restaurants most of the times through brands, organized chains. And that evolution of the consumption habits is giving more rooms and more wings for the brands to grow rather than the independents. It's also true that the capital and the capacity for us to generate profitable businesses on top of the one-off cases is larger. and therefore our chances to succeed are much greater than the other ones. We do see, I see personally, if you compare the States, roughly 80% of the restaurants are organized chains or brands. If you go to the UK, it's 60% plus. And across Europe, you got some basis countries where the organized chain is still low, 30%, but some others like France or Germany are higher, closer to 50. If you just pay a little bit back to the attention to that growth in the last 10 years, all countries have kept moving into that direction of growth. So affordability of those brands in different places is going to be a continuous trend. And in Spain is a very unique case where we used to be proud of saying for very long that Spain has the most highest proportion of restaurants and bars and coffee shops per capita. Mm-hmm. We were talking about 240,000 sites. But many of those sites are shutting their curtains down, and they're really shutting down forever. Some of those are family businesses that are no longer kept by the family, and therefore those sites become another business. And retail activity is slowing down. So the restaurant per se, as a restaurateur, one-off, is not at the same pace that it was 20, 30 years ago. We will still foresee definitely beautiful one-offs, beautiful trendy restaurants, concept restaurants, Michelin star winners, and all these things. That's going to keep going. But volume-wise, organized chains are going to dominate the consumption.
Even more with soft drinks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we always talk about QSR as a recruitment channel, and that's why, yeah.
It is.
So what would you say, what challenges and opportunity do you see in consumer behavior post-pandemic? Have you seen any changes since then?
Many.
Some of them?
Many. Let's focus my thoughts in Europe mostly. Okay. Across Europe, we have different performance in different countries. I like to say that I've got kind of 2,000 thermometers who measure the temperature of the business and who measure the temperature of the economy. Ahead of investors, ahead of the analysts from banks telling me how difficult is business in France or Germany. I can see that coming almost a couple of years ahead of that. I think for me the worrying factor is, I'm talking generally across Europe, it's not the same assessment for all the countries, but generally speaking, inflation has overcome the real disposable income lines, and we can see that there is a gap of capacity to spend versus income and turnover of most of the countries. How is that resulting? This is a financial crisis, individual budget crisis, and families are spacing more and more their visits. They pay more and they spend more because the price is inflations. But it's also true that taxes has gone to the roof in many places, and therefore customers are missing that money, that fresh extra money in their pockets. And that's turning also into a negative consumer confidence. And you can see in many countries, savings on the banks are reaching their highest numbers in a decade. So people are holding also on their decisions, on the big ones, and they're holding their movements because they are not clear about the economic agendas. And we can see that in especially Western Europe is very evident that people are, after some recession, after some inflation and some difficult years, people are holding how to do, and it's making more conscious decisions how to spend.
And that affects the traffic dramatically.
Absolutely. Traffic is the big thing. For us, it's an obsession. Luckily, we have been growing positively in our consumers, and the way the company is set is about winning customer hearts. That's our mission, is our recipe for success. But it's a hard one, and convincing
it's about value.
Absolutely. Affordable value, right value on the right channel, right momentum is a must. So we are immersed in that fight. I'd probably say after so many years in business, I haven't seen any 5 years as trouble as the last ones. We are just all experiencing. And probably it's the same for you in your company.
And regarding value, what would you say? Would you say dining, digital, delivery, takeaway? If you had to bet, what would you bet for?
In value, I would say affordable value. And value is always a relative concept. And it's about how do you experience. We can see the value, especially on the drinks category, for example, where dining has grown. The incidence rate has grown up.
That's good news.
Yeah, in the last probably 2 years, almost 3%. So the value still on this opportunity, the face-to-face interaction, if it is a good one, it's a fantastic one. If you go to, for example, Tagliatella, casual dining Italian leader in Spain, ticket average per head 22, 24 euros, with a blanket, with a proper table service waiter, with a proper food, abundant value. That's probably the cost of one main in other restaurants.
Yep.
And so that's a very affordable option. So price relatively is good. Yeah, that's one of the big topics in the agenda.
One question, changing subject. Private equity. How would you say they have changed the rules of the game in food service?
In many ways, I will say that the contribution of new capital, fresh capital into the game has accelerated a lot of brands development. And if you traditionally were building up your savings to build the second unit and therefore waiting for a small loan to get your third unit running, capital allows you to plan differently, and you are trying to penetrate a market or a city or a region in a much fast-paced approach. And that's something good. You create a lot of jobs, investments, new sites, and so the economy you're putting money to work. I think this is positive. It's also true that the capital has been looking also for new territories and new places to invest, and we can see how what they were called in the past niche categories grew up exponentially because they had capital behind. For example, poke salads and all these things were unknown. Suddenly, good capital was a tool to improve those things. The only thing that I will highlight with capital, private equity capital, is that in some occasions a PowerPoint plan need to accommodate to reality of the offer and demand levels on the market. And on so many occasions we have seen brands that have gone too far ahead of the real demand, where you can open stores and suddenly after 3-4 years finding difficulties to keep that network live. Opening stores, opening restaurants is not that difficult. You give me the money, we'll open restaurants right away, any corner, any place. The secret on the sauce is about how to keep them live and profitable for long after 3-4 years. And that's where also the private equity business, I think they have also learned about their own assessment, how to evaluate where to invest and what pace of investments is the proper one.
So I think you've answered the next question, which was growing business or making it profitable.
Well, AmRest sets ourselves for a growth value approach. And strategy is very simple, very boring. It's very simple.
No.
It's profitable, sustainable growth. And I can talk about the three. I mentioned about profit, about margin improvement. That's where we are adding a lot of technology, processes, systems. We do invest a lot into making our company more sophisticated, but more efficient. And that goes from the very beginning, you name it, from recruitment to incentives to logistics. Everywhere we play the cent game in order to make a more profitable company. Sustainable for long is about how do we open the restaurant, how many, and for how long. Lucky us, our major stakeholders are long-term players, and therefore we are not into the headlines and the stock market value game. It's not about making announcements to get a great assessment. Is about to go for the long shot, and this is where we are. So sustainability, not in the green territory, but in sustainability as an economic proposal is a must for us. And then growth. We need to grow. I think one of the secrets for us, we are very picky and tricky into identifying how to open restaurants. But once we have identified the right one, then we move into what I jokingly comment, we are in the photocopy business. When we got the right model, it's about to making them to happen as many times as the market can afford and absorb it. So those are the three magic words for us: profitable, sustainable growth, both.
Yeah, I think that's common for us too. So let's move now to beverage category. So which is the role of the beverage category in the overall AmRest business, and how important are soft drinks to AmRest to drive value growth?
It's very important. The drinks itself, just finding out different performance, it's one of the key elements today to drive traffic, because it also plays the value perception. So running into bundles, running into promotions, drinks can play a very high message and help the customers to drive. But let me say also that innovation, for example, has been seen also as a new recruiter of traffic. And so innovation in all categories and all channels is playing a big effect. We can observe that drinks are growing, incidence rates are growing, especially in the dining category, while in the delivery, opposite to that, is going down. And so people are using the channels differently as well. So we can also understand. And the drinks are playing a little bit of a game there, how they do provoke. For my appetite, drinks, especially innovations or new categories creation, can also become a new visit driver, which is a factor that we all experience. And we can see brands worldwide attempting to develop special products to create a special occasion excuse to visit. And in some categories and in some age generations, that's true. If we see in the States, many brands are moving from drinks being the side element as to be the reason to visit.
Yep.
And so how long those legs are, we will see it. But apparently some generations are up to go and pay a visit to a site because a new drink. And we are experiencing that. And we are experiencing that in our business today. And you name it, not only for soft drinks, but also for shakes, coffees, and bubble teas, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think this is also a great opportunity.
So I was going to ask you, what do you think consumers value most within drinks? Would that be innovation?
But there are two things there. I think it's, let's say from the QSR perspective, speed is a must. So I'm not talking about simplicity to execute the order, but it's about affordable value price. Because at the end it's part of the formula. And if you have, in some markets, the pricing of the drinks are observed as a commodity. Do people know how to evaluate a site for how much they are paying for their Coke? And if in Spain they're paying 3.5 or 4 euros, that's a way they can reference what's the level of expenditure they are expecting to have in a dining business. So that's an element. Affordable price value need to be in relation to the format, to the occasion, whatever. But I think another important one here is the innovation. And that's where I love customers to be surprised by a different flavor, a different format, a different recipe, or a different execution, or tying up with different bundles or occasions. That's always, we already run some promotions together for some products very successfully. And I think this is a great way to innovate, not only in the product itself, but the way to promote and to create extra visits.
And what about brand? Do you think we can contribute to that value, not only with the price, but also with the brand?
The brand is a good one for sure. Yours is. And so, yeah, that's positive. For many customers are brand driven, no doubt. Yeah. So there's obviously some may be an hygienic factor, and some other is a key decision maker. So for sure. Yeah.
So you said it, profitable and sustainable growth. So our common ambition is simple, is growth. How do you think we can support you, AmRest, in that objective that ultimately also lead to grow the category? How can we do that?
I think it's about customer-centric driven decisions. So you need to feel and experience how the consumers are behaving. Yeah. And through your business intelligence, data, research, analysis, share with us best practices, and also help us to forecast what's coming, what's the new thing, how we can do different things, and how to improve. If I'm happy with my incidence rate today, but I don't know any other better, it's difficult for me to foresee that there's an opportunity. So that's also setting your benchmarks will help me to grow. I think innovation is a key one, and constant communication among the teams on the commercial trade zone, how to maximize the interaction. It's a beautiful scenario, but it's how to execute it right, what to sell to whom, where.
It's about the partnership, yeah?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, okay. So you are, as you said, a multi-brand, multi-country operator. And I think that's one of our biggest challenges in the away-from-home environment. We are already a strategic partner in Spain with Tagliatella, but we know you also work with our competitor in other brands and markets. And given your scale and reach, what do you think we are missing to place Coke in a better position to become a potential exclusive partner globally?
Not only you, I will say, not to blame on you on only this thing. I think all over, any vendor who wants to play and act together with AmRest need to have this kind of competitive pricing structure. And today is not only about the price itself, it's about the extra money that goes around and different layers of interaction with the consumer and the customer. You name it, from fans to customer data, marketing, promotion, pricing strategies, agencies, bundles, contributions, whatever of funds are considered. My suggestion is always put yourself into one of the objectives I just mentioned about margin improvement. How will you be able to tailor, with a revenue management mindset, the interaction with me? And so it's about how do you think about from the very beginning of the supply chain. It is about to think, is this the right format? Is this the right logistics? Is this the right size? Is the right cost structure? Do we need to contribute here? Do we need to incentivize the consumption in a different way? So pricing itself could be one thing, but very, very hard to compare. But if you wrap it with the full mentality of the whole partnership cooperation, it can go from training to QA to investments, whatever. Definitely that's the kind of relationship I'm looking for in any vendor like yours.
And how can we do to drive more value, to increase that traffic, to drive incidents? So
Absolutely.
all that top line working together would be crucial, I guess.
Traffic and sales are the name of the game. So,
okay, so we're getting to the end. What final message would you like to share with these with the CCP leaders joining us today? Any advice for those leading teams in such a fast-changing environment? Anything you want to share?
in relation to AmRest?
Yeah, or in general?
In general. Well, I think we haven't seen so many crises and different weird momentums as we have seen in the last 5 years. So being flexible and agile on decisions is critical, is a must, because the fast pace we are moving around is enormous. And so be sure that we do track and understand how consumers behave at all occasions and all generations. I was joking a few minutes ago that I do try and test my kids' French just to understand how the different groups are behaving. And you can very easily be disconnected of how people and consumers are behaving if you don't really take the time to learn. I was joking about if you open your fridge every 10 years, what you see inside your fridge is different. You see different formats, different brands, different products. And so that's society and those are consumers. So I think it's be very, very customer centric, apply a lot of data analysis, and be close to the companies like ours that are looking for a sustainable path. I think the partnership here is not only to make your number for 1 year. I think here is to establish partnerships that can long last and say, hey, let's make a strategic alliance with this group that is going to last 6-10 years. And that's the way to work together. It's about the cash margin game. How much cash margin are you producing? And I think this is part of the mindset as well. Revenue management, agility, closer to all the stakeholders. Company like AmRest is not only me, one person.
Of course.
You got a bunch of team members who are decisive makers, and you need to get to know exactly their needs. And different regions. It's not the same behavior in Poland, Czechia, Germany, and Spain. And so different categories, different countries, different behaviors, perception of the brand, competitors, landscape, all these things play a factor. So you need to know very well how is my business to be sure.
I think that's the key, knowing your business. We always talk about putting yourself in the customer's shoes. And I think it's a little bit about that. And I think we're much more ready today after this conversation. Thank you very much, Luis. It was amazing. It was really interesting talking to you. I'm really thankful of you being here with us today. So thank you in the name of CCP, and happy to keep talking to you every day.
Thank you very much, Alicia.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure, and good luck to all of you.
And we're now ready for a global RFP. We have everything. Okay, thank you.